Ironman Switzerland recap. We're back in Arizona. We're about 7 days removed from the race. A lot of emotions with this race, so I want to kind of go through from the very beginning. So I guess the first thing is, why did I choose Ironman Switzerland? Like, why did I travel 16 hours across the whole entire, world for me to go to Europe for the first time, experience jet lag for the first time, do one of the hardest courses that I could pick. It was about 7,800 feet of climbing, which I've never climbed over 4,000 feet at one time in a bike. Never done over a 100-mile bike ride, and never done a marathon. And so for me, it's like, if I want to do an Ironman, one, I don't want to just do an Ironman just to say I did an Ironman. I want to be in an area where it's the most beautiful place because I'm out there for what I thought was going to be 14 hours. And I asked friends and people that travel a lot, I'm like, what's the best place in the world? And they're like, Switzerland, Switzerland, Switzerland. And I'm like, done, Ironman Switzerland it is. And so I signed up and I wanted the most adversity possible. And I'm like, well, you're going across the whole entire world. There's gonna be jet lag. It's a whole different time zone, flipped upside down. It's gonna be the hardest climbing. People don't speak your language. Like, what could be, literally harder? So I guess that leads us into the whole entire trip itself. So we land in Geneva, Switzerland on Thursday. We were lucky enough to have first class. We slept really good on the plane. Everything was clicking, everything was great. Our hydration was on point, food was on point on the plane, and we felt really good. And so we get into Geneva, we drive about 2.5 hours into Thun, which is where the race venue was, and we get into our Airbnb. And so that night, I obviously expected jet lag's gonna be a real thing. I was prepared for it. Meg and I slept 2 hours, right? I stayed in bed for about 6 hours, but we slept a total of 2 hours. And then I get to the race venue, we do the whole entire registration, and long story short, in the registration, everybody was saying like, oh, people are gonna speak English, like you're gonna be totally fine. Nobody spoke English. Like I literally was like yelling around, like, does anybody here speak English? And they're like, Guten Tag, and I was just like, I don't even know what we're saying. And one of the people were saying I can't race because I don't have a Euro card or something what they're calling it. I'm like, I have a triathlon license. They're like, USA, you need Europe. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like these people aren't gonna have me race. And finally this guy from Colorado was like, I speak English. And I'm like, thank God. And so he helped me out. I was able to buy my Euro card or whatever license that for Europeans have to be able to do the events. And so I walked out of there like less stressed. I'm like, okay, at least I get to race. Like, it'd be a bummer if I flew across the whole entire world and I couldn't race because I didn't have some weird card. And so then I get back to the Airbnb and Saturday comes, we check in our bike. I'm feeling pretty good. I hit everything my coach told me about nutrition, carb loading, exactly what grams to hit, like everything was on point. Just listen to everything he said and I hit every single part of it. And so then all of a sudden get around like 6 p.m. on Saturday, the day before the race, and I just all of a sudden, it hit me like a sack of bricks. Like I got sick instantly. Body started just sweating like crazy, shaking, chills, trembling. Headache was the worst headache I've ever had. Sore throat, and I was like, maybe this is race nerves, like let's just go to bed and hopefully we can wake up and feel good. Go to bed at 8 o'clock and wake up at 11:30 p.m. and felt the worst I've ever felt, like the worst sickness. So really started to panic because I was like, okay, everything I've read on Google was like anything below your neck means that you should not work out whatsoever, let alone do an Ironman for 14 hours. So I wake Megan up and I'm like, I'm not doing good. Like this is not good at all. I remember going to the shower and I'm just like devastated. I'm like, what is happening? And then I kind of like a switch went off and it was like, you gotta take me out of this thing completely. Like I didn't come across the whole entire world for me not to even hit the start line. Like if I don't finish the swim or if something happens to me, like I can live with that, right? But I cannot not start. Like there was just no way. So we probably slept an hour and 30 minutes max that night, felt horrible, popped my first Advil in the last 8 years because I'm personally against medicine and everything I've done is holistic. The Advil did help my headache, and so I was able to show up to the race. My body was still shaking, still sweating, and I remember being in the car and one of our friends that was with us was like, hey, well, if Michael Jordan can do the flu game, you can do this. Like the difference is Michael Jordan had to play 4 quarters for 12 minutes. I gotta get out there for 14 hours.
You're not MJ yet, you gotta finish.
I'm like, you know what, let's see what I'm about. Like I wanted adversity, I prayed to God, I'm like, make this the hardest day possible for me. And God was like, bet, like this is gonna be the hardest day you've ever gone through and let's see what you're about. So I start the race, I get to the start, you know, for the swim, and I look around and I'm in the Alps and I'm like, this is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. And so I start the race and my body is just shaking, not feeling good. So right when I get in the water is extremely choppy, the current is awful, and my legs just seize up. Like I just completely go stiff in my legs. And I'm like, here we go, like something's gonna happen, my body's not reacting well. So I stayed calm, just kept stroking, just kept going. And then all of a sudden, about 400 meters in the swim, some guy behind me just takes his nail and just claws the back of my foot. And oddly enough, this is where I think a lot of people would think I'm weird. I was almost like, thank God this happened, because now my mind can focus on something else besides the pain of my sickness. Like I had a different pain for me to kind of get confused with. So I'm gushing blood the whole way. I get out of the water, I look down, my foot is just covered in blood. I'm like, well, this is gonna be a fun 112-mile bike ride. I stuff my bloody foot in the shoe. And so I get out of the water, get into transition, put the shoes on, got a lot of pain in the foot, but I'm like, let's go, let's get on the bike. So get on the bike, the first loop felt really strong, but just remember my coach saying like, hold back, hold back, hold back, hit my numbers perfectly. Got into the second loop and I was like, wow, I'm starting to really feel it. Like my body started really shutting down. And I remember being in aero position and just praying to God and being like, God, just like give me strength, like give me something and let me be an example during this whole entire process. Because I knew how much adversity I was going through, and the average person would have just given up from there. Like they would have been like, this is not safe. And there's a lot of alerts going off in my head, but I've worked in my mind so much that I'm able to actually overcome those things. And all of a sudden, right when I prayed, it was so crazy. It was like a snap of a finger, my body just felt great. Like no more chills, no more shivers, like nothing. And I was just like, let's crush this thing. And so I ended up finishing the bike, beat the time I was projected for, actually beat the time I was projected for on every single discipline. Swim, T1, bike, T2, and run. And so I get off of the bike, and it was one of the hottest days in Thun ever. Like all these people were raving about like, it's the hottest day, it's horrible, blah, blah, like, and I'm in all black, obviously, if you know me, all black is the only thing I wear. And I'm like, this is light work. Like I'm used to 116 in Arizona. So for me, it was like, it wasn't a huge deal at all. So you probably see other videos where people are like, it was just so hot, blah, blah. Not the excuse for me. Obviously I trained for it. I'm out in Arizona. Didn't affect me whatsoever. So I remember my coach saying, look, people are gonna go max out time trial on the bike. And so if you can hold off on the bike and then you can hold off the first 12, 13 miles of the run, you're gonna be able to pick off people like crazy. Sure enough, I kept every single, my pace was perfect. I kept every single thing that he told me. It was on top of nutrition the whole entire time. And by mile 13, literally every single person I was watching was walking. And I was just like, great, here's time to go. The next thing is, I remember him telling me, he's like, once you get to about mile 18, you're going to want to quit. Like there's going to be all these thoughts in your mind where you're just like, I want to go back to the house. Like I'm done. And so I was waiting for that the whole time. And it was the third loop of when you got to mile 18, from 18 to mile 26.2. And I remember just being like, it's not here. I feel great. This is easy work. Like this is fine. Kept the pace going, kept the pace going. Then I got to about mile 24 and I was like, okay, like, I don't really feel much. Like this is feeling really good. And I think it's a testament to like the strategy my coach put me through. Like we hit everything perfectly, and like I give all the credit to him. Like yes, I executed the race, but it was like his plan was so beautifully put down, and I executed 100%. And so I remember getting to mile 24 and thinking like, I have only 2 miles left and this is it. Like I put so much pressure on myself for this Ironman, and I had so much expectations for what this would feel like, and all these videos, people crying at the finish line and celebrating, and I respect it so much. Like I love that aspect of the sport. That's why I love the sport so much. And it was funny because you see me finish, and I finish, and I'm thinking, there's a moment actually out here in training 2 weeks before the whole entire race, and I visualized me finishing and raising my arms up, and I got emotional because I was like, this is gonna be incredible. And that was more emotional than actually me finishing the actual Ironman. I finished the Ironman, and I couldn't help but laugh because a guy that gave me the medal, he was like, Gusha Nakarush. I was like, what did you say? And he's like, oh, American, congratulations. I'm like, where am I at, dude? Like, can I get some person speaking English? And I guess I'm in Switzerland, so that makes a lot of sense. But yeah, I mean, the whole entire deal, I mean, the highlight of the whole entire day really was seeing Megan at the end of it, and she's crying, and she's like, I'm so proud of you, because she knew how much I endured. And we don't do this stuff for ourselves, like we do this for our kids. Like we believe that when our kids come into this world, like we're gonna show them before they're even here. Like they're gonna look back on this video and look at us and be like, my dad is an animal. Like, and that sets the bar for our whole entire family. Like we're really about legacy in our family and really emphasizing, and legacy is not about what we build. Like legacy is what we can carry on and what we can teach our kids and what our kids then teach our kids. And so it really starts now with us, and we're very intentional with it. It's the reason why it's not just me doing the sport. Megan's doing the sport too. Like she's the one that's putting the training, and we're doing everything in our life together. And if you guys know our relationship, we're best friends. Like we're so in love with each other. We're the biggest team possible. We're so blessed to have each other, and I'm so grateful. And that moment that, you know, we look at each other and I'm just nodding at her, and it just got so emotional with us because it was just like, we knew what we endured together, and it's us in this world, and it's the most special thing to have somebody and a partner that you're so in love with, that you experience these moments with, and not many people can understand that. So really, I guess the last thing is, okay, what happened after the race? You know, feeling good, feel like walking around, like I would have thought it'd be like hobbling off or all different thing. Felt really good. And then everything went downhill once I got back to the Airbnb. And I just started puking, and other stuff was happening that I won't mention, but you can kind of put two and two together. And I'm like, what is happening? Like, this is harder than the actual race itself. Like, my gut was just, it was brutal. It's just like, couldn't sleep, and just like everything was coming out. And I'm like, this is like, it's like the Family Guy episode where it's just like every single second it's just like, and I'm like, what is happening? And then we come to find out that our Airbnb had black mold in it the whole entire time, which is the reason why I was sick. And so we're like, get us out of this house. So we wrapped up, we headed out to Geneva, got a hotel, and instantly started feeling better. And it was one of the craziest experiences ever. So then the last story is flying back into the States. We're like, get us home. Like get us home. So we wake up in Geneva in the morning, and there is the largest thunderstorms I've ever seen. Our window is literally like there's just lights going off. And I'm like, oh my gosh, our flight's been delayed. Sure enough, I literally talked to Megan. I say, hey, this could be a hell of a day. And we didn't have a connecting flight. We had separate flights. And so if we missed the first flight, the next flight, you don't get reimbursed. And so we'd have to spend an extra $7,000 to get on a new plane the next day. And so it could have been a nightmare. And I look at Megan and I'm like, hey, if this gets delayed, like we're in this together, like let's try to pull together, blah, blah. Right when I say that, I get a text that comes up and it says, your flight's delayed. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. So we still go to the airport. There's a video of me running through and pouring rain when I dropped out the rental car, and you'll see the lightning go off. I mean, it's just, I don't know if you guys can see, there's just, the sky is lighting up. And so, yeah, our flight might get canceled and this might be a hell of a day, but hey, it's an adventure, so whatever. And I'm like, this is gonna be a nightmare. So then all of a sudden, the sun comes up and the lightning and thunder go away. And they say, the flight's only delayed by 15 minutes. We're like, great, okay, we're gonna make our flight, everything's good. We're literally on the plane and we're sitting there. And all of a sudden an announcement comes up and they say, sorry, your pilot is 45 minutes late in traffic. And we were supposed to leave like right now. And I'm like, what are we talking about? Our pilot's 45 minutes late. So we talked to the flight attendant. He's like, I don't know. Like the guy's just not here. Like we can't fly a plane without the pilot, obviously. And I'm like, well, I get that, but do we know how like a standby pilot? He's like, we don't. Like we just can't fly it. I'm like, so we're on the tarmac and we're just like, you gotta be kidding me. Finally, this guy comes in sweating, looking like he's hungover, and I'm like, great, this is the guy who's flying our plane. Finally take off for the plane. We literally have 15 minutes to get our bags and get through customs in London. So me and Megan are on a full-on sprint with our big old bike case, all our suitcases just, I probably body checked 14 people, but again, I'll probably never see them again. And if they're watching this video, they'll probably go after me. But again, I don't know. I don't know where I live. I don't know where my address is. I'm not here. That wasn't me. And so we finally get to everything and we barely make our flight from London to LAX. And it was a hell of a travel day. Had to miss a few meetings, unfortunately, but we got home, didn't have to spend extra money. And once we got home, we were like, thank God we're home. So what an experience. It's everything I wanted and more. Not as fulfilled as I thought I was, but happy. Proud of myself. And makes me want to do another one. Makes me want to experience something in the States where I actually have people that speak English and my team around me, and even be cool if my coach is actually there too in person. So I guess that wraps it up. So what's next? We go right back into training camp this week for 70.3 Santa Cruz. The goal is to get sub 5 hours, which will put me in top 10 in my age group. And then we go into 70.3 La Quinta in December, and then we'll figure out what we want to do next year. We'll keep it rolling. So that's it.